Hello, everybody. It's Kate. I'm here live today. It is June the 16th. Can you believe it? It's the middle of the month already. We're going to be getting into July faster than a bunny can shake his tail, as my papa used to say. So thank you so much for joining me. I've decided that I'm going to do a couple of shows like this just because there are some things that I haven't had a chance to find experts in the field on, and I think they're important to help you understand some of the things that you can do so easily to protect your brain. Because, we talk about gut health and we talk about sleep and getting rid of sugar and all those other things. But there are some things that are really easy to institute right away, and we can do them on our own. We don't have to have any help or guidance or anything, just a little bit of information. And so today is one of those days. And since I'm a harpist, and I'm also the author of a book called The Healing Sound of Music, in addition to Don't Let the Memories Fade, I thought now would be a good time to talk about the healing power of sound and silence. Because sound is, everything is about vibration, right? We don't survive unless we're vibrating. This mouse doesn't exist without molecules vibrating. So sound is a huge part of our lives. It's a part of our being. This is the first thing we experience as embryos in our mom's womb, the sound of her heart beating. So it's vitally important to us as human beings, sound. It can also be very detrimental to us if we are exposed to sounds that cause pain or aggravation or stress or all of those things. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. I'm just going to check here on my iPad to make sure it's working the way I hope everything is. And then I'll get into our teaching. Yes. Okay. Hi, Joan. Thanks so much for joining me here. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the information I wanted to share. I've got some notes here because I don't want to forget, because there's so many things that can help you. So I'm going to put these up so I can make sure to cover everything. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm the author of The Healing Sound of Music. And as a harpist and a sound therapist, I just feel that it's important to nurture anything that we can in the way of sound and music to keep our brains healthier, our bodies healthier as well, right? But silence is so much more than golden. It's actually regenerative. Why do I have such trouble with that word? So there's been research into sounds and silence. And there was one study that found that prolonged silence can actually spur new cell development in the brain. Now, it happened to be with mice, but it extended into humans later. But I got to tell you about this experiment with mice. So the researchers subjected 3 groups of adult mice to 3 types of sound. So it was music, white noise, and infant mouse sounds. And then they had another group, a control group, that was just exposed to 2 hours of silence a day. So all of these mice, these groups of mice, were exposed to these different kinds of sound. And the first 3 groups, they experienced some positive effects from the sounds they were hearing, but nothing was as impressive as the results for the mice that were exposed to silence. They showed development of new brain cells in the hippocampus. If you remember the last couple of lives I did by myself, I talked about the role of the hippocampus in memory. And it not only stores older memories, it helps us classify where things need to go in our brain for the different parts of the brain that some memories go to. So the hippocampus was actually increased thanks to the sound of silence. And of course, they didn't really understand why. The researcher didn't understand why that would prompt the mouse brains to not only increase in activity, but actually increase the size of the hippocampus. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that silence is pretty rare. Maybe the mice brains interpreted that as something new and helped it grow that way. So they expanded on this with another study with humans. And it started out as a study to determine what kind of music would make people less stressed, would help with the stress reduction. So they played 6 different styles, all to the same people. So all the same people received the same music. There was no differentiation of groups of people. They were just exposed to these different kinds of music, 6 different kinds of music. But between the types of music were 2 minutes of silence. And even though some of the music spurred the relaxation response, the most relaxation response was spurred by the silence. And of course, if we're more relaxed, our brains are happier, cortisol levels go down, our guts are happier. So it seems like silence is something we need to nurture. And I can tell you from my own experience, the sound of silence is essential. I need it for my brain. And I often wonder if maybe that's why meditation is so helpful for brain health. Maybe it's because we do it in silence. Maybe it gives our brains that needed space to interpret learnings, whatever, or it's just a different thing because we are exposed to sound most of the time, and silence is interpreted by our brains as something different and therefore something that expands the learning capabilities of the brain. Either way, it's good for you. So they also did some more research on how silence could help with studying, learning new things. So it turns out that if you spend, say, half an hour of studying, that's apparently the best block of time, half an hour, but spend the first 5 minutes silent. And in that time, you're just going to prepare yourself for learning and be in absolute silence. It kind of gets you in a meditative state so that you're ready to incorporate what you're going to learn. Then spend the next 20 minutes. Now, the studies they've done have mostly been with language, learning new languages. So the studies then was 20 minutes then of studying a language and practicing the language. And then at the end, another 5 minutes to let the brain absorb that learning, to integrate it, to let the hippocampus do its work, save those memories, and then take them and then send them to where they need to go in other parts of the brain. So that's a little tip for you if you're going to learn something new, if you want to learn something new, a new language or even music, if you're a musician and you want to learn new music, or you're somebody who's learning a musical instrument, this is a great way to do it. And I often wonder if maybe that's why they had us practicing for half an hour when we were kids. I don't know. That's how I was taught, to practice in half-hour blocks. I'm just going to see if there's anything here on the chat while I'm here, or anybody has any questions so far, because I'd be happy to answer if there's anything here. Hi, Julie. Thanks so much for hanging with me. Great. Okay, so I'm going to go back to what I wanted to cover today, because this is just so cool. There's so many things that we can do without even really having to change our life, right? 5 minutes of silence when you're learning something, or even if you're going to be doing something for work and it's going to take a lot of brain power, spend 5 minutes and chill in silence and then go to your task. So, and also, I mean, I know a lot of people have trouble being in silence. They have to have noise around all the time, but we don't. We really need the silence. So we might have to practice being in silence. And you can do that by, say, not having any music or no TV on when you're cooking dinner, or doing laundry, folding laundry, daily things that you can that you might normally have done with sound or music or something. Just try to do it in silence. And yeah, try that. And then also go to places where silence is the norm, a museum or a gallery. I think they're mostly open now. Any place where stillness is the norm. It's a great way to get used to being quiet. Okay, so I still have a little bit of time. Try to set aside half an hour every day or an hour every day to be in silence. It doesn't have to be all at once. You can just do it, break it up over the course of the day and see what kind of difference that makes for you. Now let's get to music, because here we can really expand our brains by listening to, making, and dancing to music. Humming, I've talked about a few times on this series, Brain Health Matters, but anything where we're making music or even listening to music is going to have an effect on our brains. But you need to do it mindfully if you really want to make it a good tool for brain expansion. So when you're listening to a piece of music, listen to the parts of the music. I'm going to put a link in the notes for the show here to a YouTube video for a Brandenburg concerto. It's number 4, it doesn't matter which one it is, but there are a lot of different parts. And if you listen mindfully and you pick up the different parts, choose a part, choose a melody or a counter melody or contra, and just listen to that part, that instrument, and follow it through. What you're going to be doing is the same thing as musicians do with their brains when they're playing the music. You are going to be using both hemispheres to pick out where that music is going and really listen to what, and also watching the musicians. It's a great exercise to just listen mindfully and use the different parts of our brain in a very focused and on purpose way. But if you want to improve your memory, when you're learning something, remember I said to do 5 minutes of silence at the beginning. If you want to really enhance that memory, the learning that goes on in those 20 minutes of learning, put some kind of background, Baroque, or some kind of instrumental music, Handel or Bach or somebody like that, something where there's complicated music going on in the background, but very background, because for some reason, they believe that that will inspire both sides of the brain to be working, even when you're doing something that's really on one side of the brain. So, for example, if you're learning arithmetic or math, that's making one side of the brain work. If the music is in the background and it's making the other side of the brain engaged, that joint work, that twin work, is going to give you the best results for learning and remembering things. So that's your memory. That's how to improve your memory that way. Yeah, they think it's supposed to stimulate both sides of the brain for learning and retention. Another thing that music can do is help us improve neuroplasticity. We talk a lot about that in brain health. Neuroplasticity is where our brains can actually create new connections between neurons. And by listening to jazz to a degree, but also to classical music, and again, follow the parts, you will have much better growth in the neurons, the connections between the cells. And of course, music is so beneficial for emotional support. If anybody's gone through a romantic breakup, you know, music is amazing, either stuff to make you cry or something to pull you out of it. Music is important for emotional support. We humans are just made that way. Music is important for us. So whether we need to cry or something to make us laugh or just feel better, music can help a lot, because it produces those feel-good chemicals like dopamine in your brain. And that is good for stress reduction. It's good for gut health. It's just good for everything. And listening to recorded music is great. But if you can go to a live concert, that's even better, because not only are you getting the vibrations and the music, you're also getting interaction with other people. And I've mentioned this several times in Brain Health Matters as well. Getting together with other people, social interaction is vitally important for our brains. So if you can go to concerts or even just a live something at a coffee bar or a restaurant, do that as much as you can, because it's really good for your brain. And see, it's not something complicated. All of the things I'm asking you to do here are easy. And just make them a part of your life, and you will help improve your brain. I'm going to go one more time to Facebook and see if any questions. Hi, Rena. Thank you so much for hopping in. No questions, but it's nice to see you folks here. Thank you so much. So those are some ideas for boosting your brain with music and silence. So remember, try to incorporate a little bit of silence in your day, every day. Be mindful of that silence. You can almost feel your brain growing just in that space and time. Listen to classical music as you're learning something, but have the music in the background. Oh, and one more thing, I almost forgot about eating with music. So music has such an impact on our digestion. And I'm going to go because there was something really interesting about this on digestion. So fast and loud music, as you probably feel when you listen to it, it stimulates the release of the stress hormone cortisol. And that increases your respiration and heart rate. And that takes energy away from proper digestion. It also makes you eat faster because it distracts you. You don't even really taste things so much, and you don't even realize you're full. So having that, like when you go into the pubs and the roadhouses, there's so much noise and so much music, and it's so loud. It's really not good for digestion. That music is designed to get you in and out, to make you just gobble your food and go, pay and go. But if you listen to like light jazz or classical, something in the background, something more moody music, it inspires you to relax and to get into the relax and digest state. You'll eat slower, you'll chew your food more thoroughly and digest it better. So be mindful of the food, of the music or the sound as you're eating. Because, I talk a lot about gut health in this program. Gut health is essential to a brain health, and you can't have a healthy gut if your digestion isn't working properly, and your digestion can be impacted by loud and raucous music when you're eating. Pretty simple. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again